Train Up a Child. What can I say about this book? This is one of the titles that Nancy Van Pelt has written, and she's a prolific author, or was a prolific author, I am sorry to say. She passed away a few years ago, but her many years of experience still are very valid today. And in the many titles that we're going to see today, we will see specifically books on education and family counseling, because that was her specialty. So if we look at Train Up a Child, it's actually a training program for parents and teachers that starts with a questionnaire to find out how well are we doing as parents and teachers in our matters of education with our children. You know, I always say that children do not come, they're not televisions, they're not fridges, they're not a mobile phone, they don't come with a manual, usually. So knowing how to deal with a child is not really an easy thing, especially if you're a first-time parent. So most of us will need some help at some point to deal with our children. And this is the first material that you should have. Train up a child the way it should go, and he will not depart from the right ways. So in the 13 chapters that this book has, you can find, the first section is just a questionnaire. So you can find out, what am I doing? What am I not doing? What should I be doing? And how can I do it? And the good thing is that each chapter, you have a questionnaire that will help you to evaluate how are you implementing the different advice that is being presented in each one of the chapters. It's a very practical book, very up-to-date information, practical that anybody can do. If you have a child, you need to have this book. So for chapter number 1 is the questionnaire. So that's the way to start. Chapter number 2, it talks about how we can help our children to have self-respect. Many of the issues that we have in society today is because parents are away from the children, they don't really know who they are, what they believe, and they need to have role models. So that is part of the issue as well. So learning how to respect themselves even as they grow up is an important issue, and that's what is presented in chapter number 2. In chapter number 3, we are talking about communication with our children. We live in an era that everything is very fast. Everything is done through the mobile phone. And funny enough, when there's more technology to talk, that's when we least talk to each other, because we're using mobile phone. If you see a normal picture on a table in a family today, you will see most people will be on their phone still talking to each other. So how can we improve communication in the home? That is what chapter 3 is about. Chapter 4, it deals with an issue that is getting more and more complicated with what is discipline? How do I apply discipline in the right context and in a positive way? So it will give you a few samples, a few ideas. In page 78, that's when the book starts, the chapter 4 starts. Some of our children nowadays, they have a lot of influences around television, internet, other friends. We cannot control everything they do. Perhaps in times past, they lived in a closer society. Now we are busy with other things. We don't have a lot of time to dedicate to them. And sometimes children play up. It is the reality. So we have to deal with those situations, and how can we do it in a manner that will be effective? That is the secret. To do it with love so they can understand it, but at the same time, you need to get the results that you need to make sure that the child will grow up in the right way. So that's chapter number 4. Chapter number 5 is a continuation, is how to help our children to build their character, to have the character to stand for what they believe, teach them what they believe, and then to be able to stand up for themselves. And it goes on in the 13 chapters. You have relationships between children and parents, teens and parents. You know, you cannot talk the same way to a 6-year-old than a 14-year-old. If you talk to a 14-year-old in the same way, I don't think you're going to get through to them very well. So parents, we need to learn the language that different ages want to hear, and that will get through to them. So that is chapter number 6. Drug prevention is also an important issue. So in chapter number 7, you can get tips and advice on how to detect whether your children are perhaps involved into these some kind of activities, whether it's with alcohol or with drugs or with smoking. So what are the signs? You as a parent, is there anything that you should be looking out for, that you can identify whether your child has a problem or perhaps a friend of your child? So you can monitor the environment that the child is growing up and what is happening at school. You know, not two children are the same. And if you have brothers and sisters, you will know that you will connect better with one or the other. Sometimes there's rivalry between the siblings. So how do you deal with that? When, you know, the three-year-old, when the baby comes, one of my colleagues at work at the office, he had a 3-year-old boy and a little sister came to the home. And that's when everything started going wrong in the home. So how can you deal with that situations? A new baby is arriving, and I have been used to be the queen of the house. I'm no longer the queen of the house. What happens then? The parents, you might need some help with that issue. So you have the help in chapter number 8. Keeping your family happy and healthy with cooking tips for helping them to also start a healthy lifestyle from a young age. So you have some recipes and some things that you can do to help them. Positive sexuality. Many parents, we don't know how to talk to our children about sexuality. They will learn it they are learning it at school, and if not, they are learning it through internet or through friends. So you might as well be empowered, be educated yourself to be able to deal with this issue, to answer the questions that I'm sure they will come to you with. That's chapter 10. So chapter 11 is the role of the father and the mother. In modern society, you have all kinds of different families. Sometimes you have mom alone, sometimes you have dad alone, you have mom and dad, you have a stepmom, you live with your grandparents. So there's a whole lot of issues that come. What is the role of the mother and the father in the family? A working mom, a single parent, all those, especially if you're a single parent, you probably will need extra help. Because if you have to do 2 jobs in one, or 3 jobs in one, you are working outside, you're working in the home, and you are mom and dad at the same time, that is not easy. We understand that, and we want to help you to understand and to be able to have tools to be able to deal with the children. So all of these chapters are here to help you. As I said, you have in all of the different chapters, you have questionnaires that you can evaluate. How are you doing? Is there anything that you should be doing differently? So you can see it's very easy, very colorful text. I think it will make a difference in your life. Who can benefit from this book? Parents, of course, teachers, tutors, even monitors in youth clubs, they can actually help. Counselors, psychologists, some of us have studied psychology, but children's psychology is very special, it's very specific. So if you're not an expert in children's psychology, but you still have to deal with children, Train Up a Child, it will be the best material for you. I recommend it for you to read it.